Justice Gang and Superman determining international politics.
Meanwhile, I'm here in Belle Reve listening to a bear-sized man with dragon skin.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Charlie. This will be my full Peacemaker Season 2, Episode 6 video. Things are starting to get crazy finally. There's a whole bunch of WTF moments and Easter eggs, so we'll break them all down. If you're brand new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to get all the episodes. They finally started paying off a lot of fan theories about what's happening on the alternate Earth, a bunch more big crossovers. Now you see why James Gunn wanted people to see the Superman movie before they actually saw Peacemaker Season 2. And even though it seems like Lex Luthor is like the big cameo, like really big character crossing over from the Superman movie, we just got the Justice Gang with Green Lantern, Hawkgirl, there's actually supposed to be more cameos coming later this season. If you've actually been subscribed to my channel for a long time, or you watch my Flash or Arrowverse videos just in general back in the day, this will probably give you vibes of Crisis on Earth X. During one of the crossover years where they do their big crossover with all the shows, they actually went to Earth X, which is basically the Nazi dimension, just like this. But the actual title of the episode is Ignorance is Chris, a reference to Peacemaker being oblivious to the problems in the other dimension, not realizing that it is a Nazi dimension, basically, because he only wants to think about his family being alive, Harcourt, who all love him. He literally went this long doing all these things for multiple days in the other dimension without noticing. During the opening scene is with his father and brother in Harcourt in the other dimension at a restaurant celebrating their adventure with the kaiju taking it down, like he's got a bunch of paperwork that he says that he has to do about it. It's just happened. Just like the previous episodes, you start to notice that there are no people of color in the restaurant, but they're more on the nose about it now just because they make the actual reveal in the episode with the Nazi flag. This is also why when they take the picture, the faces melt on the photo to show basically the illusion that Chris had in his mind of this perfect dimension melts by the end of the episode like, oh crap, how could I have been so thick that I missed this? And even if that wouldn't be enough to get him to go back to the other dimension, now there's the problems with all the other members of the 11th Street Gang. Basically, at every angle, they are screwed. Then in the DCEU, the 11th Street kids take the Multiverse portal device and go to Vigilante's house. They use this for a bunch of big reveals about his backstory. We haven't actually done a whole lot of Vigilante backstory. They just play it as a big joke where like he's this messed up person that does all these crazy things, but they reveal that he's got like the sweetest old mom ever who's just meant to be like the most loving person you could possibly imagine. We find out that he told his mother that Harcourt is his girlfriend. She's super slutty, which is like the only thing that he doesn't back down on. Like he apologizes about the girlfriend part, but not the part where he says she's super slutty. That's because he's a little bit jealous of Harcourt because Peacemaker is in love with her and he's so close to Peacemaker. So he's basically jealous of anybody else who gets close to Peacemaker. And he's got a giant safe room in his mother's basement full of millions of dollars, just piles and piles of money. Like this is right out of Breaking Bad, in drugs that he's taken from drug rings that he's busted up. Weirdly has a giant collection of Beanie Babies, which he's holding as a long-term investment. If you don't remember Beanie Babies or you're a younger person now, they're kind of like Labubus. Imagine the craziness with the Labubus now, just with a different type of toy. Peacemaker also does a big callback joke at the end of the episode too, where he's like, yes, I've heard about the collection of Beanie Babies, but I've never seen it. While they're setting up the portal device, the team all grab a couple stacks of bills. We'll see if those stay on them by the time they make it back to the DCU. Like eventually they will make it back, but they're stuck in the other dimension for now. We will see if there's any other hilarious payoff with this money that he keeps in future seasons or future movies, or they do something with it at the end of the series, like just spend it on something funny or use it for something.
There has to be like millions of dollars here.
My early assumption is they were trying to foreshadow that everybody who hated their work at Argus, like Economos, wanted to leave Argus, but he was kind of afraid to, so he was just stuck in his job. All the different 11th Street kids would band together by the end of the series and work for Adebayo or work with her at her agency that she was trying to set up on her own. So maybe, early theory, they just use all the money that Vigilante has there to fund their agency. There's the whole joke about them getting blow all over themselves when they turn the portal device on. It also kind of looks like a cash machine with it just blowing all over the room. He reveals he didn't flush it down the toilet because he didn't want to harm any of the alligators in the sewers. Friend to animals, that feels like a very James Gunn kind of thing, where like he is friend to all types of animals. tries to give them all of his alligator facts because his big things this season has been all the animal facts, and then they make it inside the pocket dimension with access to the other 99 dimensions. This immediate vicinity area is all of Peacemaker's gear though, not the other Chris, who, a lot of big Easter eggs here, they make a big Reverse Flash reference when Economos calls him Reverse Peacemaker. There's a lot of vibes of the Arrowverse going on in this episode and this series just in general with this Earth X, this Nazi dimension. But I'm not expecting to see actual Reverse Flash show up in like a cameo scene or anything like that until we know who the new main versions of the Flash are going to be. James Gunn also had a joke about that on his Peacemaker podcast recently, where he was talking about bringing back Michael Rooker as different characters. Like, he joked this season when he brought him back as Red Saint Wild, he only brought him back to kill him off hilariously, but he'll bring him back again at some point as another bigger character. Then making the joke that he was announcing Michael Rooker as the new version of the Flash. When they're looking around at all of Peacemaker's gear, just kind of wondering where he got it all, notice there's a shield with the Dove of Peace on it, there's a bunch of spare helmets, obviously a bunch of spare guns. James Gunn has commented on this because there are a lot of theories about where it comes from. Is it just Orion's hand-me-down helmets? Like, are they just stealing it from all the New Gods characters? James Gunn actually said the answer is very complicated, and he didn't have time to answer the question during this season, so they won't actually tell you where he actually got the gear from. We will see if they pay off the Orion and New Gods theory, or if it's some other hilarious explainer. The way that Chris, Peacemaker, talked about it in a previous episode, he just said it was complicated and it would take a while to explain. Speaking of which, other big plot threads that they've set up but haven't completely answered yet, the weird alien next door in the pocket dimension shows up to destroy another rat creature in the incinerator, and the way that James Gunn explained him is that there's nothing weird at all with this character. He's not meant to be a bigger thing, there's not meant to be some big teaser that they'll pay off, they'll be revealed as some huge character. James Gunn said that's basically it, like there's no bigger motivation with the character, he has no bigger plans for the character, so if you had huge theories about him, just put those to rest. Economos makes a huge Alien movie reference, calling it a xenomorph. We literally just had the Alien Earth TV show. I just did my finale video a couple days ago. But that wasn't specially timed by James Gunn or anything like that. Like, that's just a coincidence. Back at Argus, they lose track of everyone because everyone has now gone to the other dimension, even Judo Master, who we actually don't see in this episode, even though he did go to the other dimension, so he's probably running into the same problems that Adebayo did, where everybody spots him and he looks different, or at least he stays hidden and he notices that he is the only person of color anywhere nearby. So the fact that we don't see Judo Master in the episode means that he probably has not been caught yet. Flag then comes up with the idea to go get Lex Luthor for help at Belle Reve, and providing our next major Superman movie cameo scene, and doing a lot of setup for the Man of Tomorrow movie. A lot of the language that they have during their conversation is to tease the Man of Tomorrow movie, because Lex Luthor is like the second lead of that movie. It's much more of a Lex Luthor movie than the Superman movie was.
Then what could I get?
What is the United States government willing to give me to stop this clown?
An opportunity for redemption.
We will get into this. I'm sure there'll be a lot of talk about this because James Gunn has been teasing it a lot. And on the Peacemaker podcast, he actually said that Lex Luthor is one of the characters that he identifies with in the way that he identifies with Rocket Raccoon. Like, he writes them as if they are himself. Like, he has a personal connection with the characters. I've already done a larger video on the Man of Tomorrow movie. All the evidence seems to point towards Brainiac being the main villain, and that being why they need Lex Luthor's help to team up with Superman, because Superman by himself is not enough to defeat Brainiac, or even with the Justice Gang helping him. When he goes to Belle Reve, you have to remember it's only been a couple months since the events of the Superman movie. That's why Lex Luthor is still using the cane, because of the injuries that Krypto gave him when he thrashed him around like the Hulk in Loki style. He tries to make fun of Rick Flag, saying his fears about metahumans taking over the planet have been proven true since the events of the Superman movie. He mentions the Justice Gang and Superman determining international politics now and not governments. This is meant to be a reference to the way they settled the war in Jar and Pur, basically letting the Justice Gang and Superman dictate how that was resolved, as opposed to a traditional United Nations joint action or traditional military, or even letting the two countries handle it internally. Rick Flag seems like he reluctantly agrees that Lex was right, like, yeah, you were kind of right. When he mentions the bear-sized man with dragon skin, I think he's talking about Etrigan, the demon. He's not a dragon, but his skin does have dragon-like appearance, and he does have the winged ears that make him look a little bit like a dragon, but he's a demon. There are not many actual dragon characters in the DC universe who are not actual giant dragons. When he mentions the glowing twink with the cartoon eyes, that's meant to be a Creature Commandos reference to Dr. Phosphorus, who literally glows and is also voiced by Alan Tudyk, who was also just in the Superman movie as Gary, the number 4 robot. They use this for a big info dump too on the aftermath of the Superman movie and more Man of Tomorrow setup. He says the judge sentenced him to prison for 265 years for the Metropolis incident, opening the pocket dimension that almost destroyed the Earth. Rick Flag cuts that down with the promise that he will help them out in this episode with the multiverse device, but also for the Man of Tomorrow teaser, basically setting up the idea why Lex Luthor would team up with Superman to stop Brainiac. So it's basically Lex Luthor's Suicide Squad type of scenario. This is what Rick Flag means when he says he'll get a shot at redemption eventually, because they're going to start filming the Man of Tomorrow movie next spring around the time that they're filming the Batman 2 movie. The Man of Tomorrow movie is now scheduled to come out in 2027, so we're going to have both the Superman sequel and a Batman movie coming out in the same year, even though technically, according to James Gunn and Matt Reeves, they're not set in the same universe. But we are finally back to the point where we're getting a Superman movie and a Batman movie in the same year. The whole idea here being that Lex basically ends the Peacemaker episodes. We still have 2 more episodes, so he might help them out a little bit more, but I think this is really meant to be his big cameo. They end this transferring him to the maximum security prison in Metropolis. That's where it is in the comics. While he's at that prison, the redemption that they offer him is the problem of Brainiac. Like, Superman finds out that he's not enough to stop Brainiac with the Justice Gang by themselves. They need somebody else's help, a genius who is Lex Luthor, because Superman with all of his powers still is not a total genius. We can actually dig into this when we start getting Man of Tomorrow trailers in a couple years. The whole idea is that Superman, if he lived long enough, could just continue studying and he would eventually become incredibly knowledgeable. So like, he'll get there eventually, but right now, like, this is early days Superman, so he's still of normal level of intelligence, like slightly enhanced intelligence, not near the level of Lex Luthor yet.
And not waste either of our times. You won't be able to outmaneuver me in negotiations, General.
One of the other funny moments here too, like a whole bunch of jokes coming out of Lex Luthor's mouth, he also makes fun of Peacemaker because he thinks he's a nobody. Costume vigilante, who cares about that? That's a nobody. Why are you talking about him? He winds up giving Rick Flag some of his Luthor Corp portal detection technology and the help of one of his scientists in the next episode. I'll probably do a trailer video for the next episode that'll explain a little bit more of this. The 11th Street Kids make it to the other dimension and start noticing all the subtle differences. Economos makes his Reverse Flash, Reverse Peacemaker reference. They almost get caught. Loved Harcourt's excuse. Took a giant dump. No questions asked. Very easy way to get out of situation. That person will never open that door ever again. They use the snow globe joke to set up the post-credit scene where, like, she thinks it's no big deal. Like, I'm here to get that shiny thing over there. And it winds up being something that Peacemaker's dead mother gave to him on her deathbed. We actually haven't gotten too much information about Peacemaker's mother, at least in the DCEU. Maybe they'll get into that in a future season or future movies or future cameo scenes. During the actual post-credit scene, they reveal that she died when Peacemaker was about 2 years old, which explains how he grew up under such an abusive household, because if his mother had been around, that probably wouldn't have been the case. Elsewhere in the other dimension, Peacemaker and the other Harcourt, Reverse Harcourt, get it on at her house, I think meant to be a mirror of her sex scene with Rick Flag Jr. in the other previous episode in the DCU. DCU Harcourt then starts to notice that there's weirdly only white people walking around, building towards the Nazi reveal later in the episode, the Earth X reveal. There are a couple funny moments where they reveal more differences in the other dimension with the pop culture. Halloween is a reference to something that James Gunn talked about on one of his Peacemaker podcasts when he was talking about how glam metal died out when grunge came along in the 90s. He was talking about all the deep cuts, like the really good bands that he put on the Peacemaker soundtrack during Season 1 and now Season 2, and how he loved a lot of those bands. And way back in the 80s, a lot of them were blowing up like it was huge around the world, like crazy popularity. But then all of a sudden, Nirvana came along in the 90s, grunge became a big thing, and overnight, a lot of those glam metal bands died out, broke up, and it all just almost went away. Only some of the biggest bands like Bon Jovi were able to survive the grunge era and continue on. So part of the idea in this dimension, in Earth X, is that a lot of those bands never died out. Also the idea that hip-hop never became a thing because everybody's Nazis, so they got rid of all the people of color. So all these other types of music that came from a lot of other cultures never became popular. You also have to imagine in a fascistic state like that, they would dictate what you could read, what you could listen to, a lot of that kind of stuff. One of the other big differences in this universe is also that Mick Jagger joined the Beatles instead of John Lennon, became their guitarist and lead singer over Paul, implying that Mick Jagger influenced the direction of the band, the Beatles, more than Paul did. Peacemaker takes the peace cycle to Argus and arrives just as the dog is flipping out on Harcourt because of the coke all over her jacket, and they bring her in for questioning, and things slowly start to deteriorate, but it does give them that moment where they actually do have their heart-to-heart and finally say a lot of the things that they've been thinking all season. Elsewhere, Vigilante flips his lid when he finds his house in the other universe, which is way more similar to his version in the DCU than Peacemaker's house. Like, that's part of the joke, is that everything is almost exactly the same, except for one very, very major detail. Basically, the only thing that's different about the other Vigilante, his life, everywhere he lives, everything he does, is that he hates Peacemaker and wants to destroy everything he stands for. Love the way they build up to the reveal because they start with the Spider-Man meme reference. So Marvel is also canon in the DCU now, but they've done this all the time. Like the Flash TV show in the Arrowverse reference Marvel characters all the time.
My spidey sense is just tingling way off the charts.
Marvel and DC productions reference each other all the time, but it's mostly meant to be jokes. Like nobody's going to sue anybody for doing stuff like that. Peacemaker and Harcourt have their heart-to-heart. They make the reference to Al Capone's vault. That's actually a big deep cut. There was a TV special that aired in the 1980s where somebody claimed that they found Al Capone's secret vault, but when they opened it on live TV, like they treated this huge event, it wound up being completely empty, like it was a total dud. He references hearing about Vigilante's massive Beanie Baby collection. She then gives him the business about why he doesn't belong in this dimension, at least metaphorically, like emotionally, why he doesn't belong here, like why it's wrong. Literally why it's wrong is because it's the Nazi dimension. Like you don't want to stay inside a Nazi dimension. Probably one of the other biggest moments of the series so far is when he point blank tells her that he loves her. And even though he knows she's all messed up, he still loves her. But if it wasn't clear, she's almost too messed up in the head to process that, which is why she can't answer. Like she just starts breaking down in front of him because she can't handle somebody loving her like this. We will see how they resolve that. My early theory right now is that she doesn't love him or like want to be in a relationship with him, but she does care about him very deeply like a friend, the way she cared about Rick Flag. But every once in a while, they kind of got it on the side. So maybe that will happen with Peacemaker, where like they don't become boyfriend and girlfriend or anything like that, but they do hook up every once in a while. Both the Vigilantes agree that Infernape is the best Pokemon. Then the whole thing with the Cloud Man looking down on both of them in both universes, you could also joke that they're seeing the Presence, which is the DC version of the actual God, like capital G God. That almost feels like a James Gunn type of joke, like where Vigilante, a character that nobody really thinks that much about because he's so weird, actually has seen the face of God staring at him. The other Vigilante also reveals that he's a member of the Sons of Liberty, and in this universe, they're the good guys, as opposed to in the comics in the DCU, where they're more of a violent militia group causing trouble in the Justice League comics. So the whole idea that when Peacemaker took them out in the earlier episode, and everybody thought he was a hero, he was actually the bad guys. We are the baddies, everybody post all the memes, taking out the good guys. Economos and Adebayo then pick up after Eagly, who's after more cold cuts, just calling back to that joke from a previous episode, loves his cold cuts. And even though it does seem like a mistake that he didn't leave the house and he got caught by Augie, you do wonder what would have happened if he had been with Adebayo and been caught by all the people that were trying to mob her at the end of the episode. Kind of seems like he would have been screwed no matter what he did. But he does wind up staying in the house and gets caught by Peacemaker's father, while Reverse Harcourt comes to Argus, runs into DCU Harcourt and Peacemaker and calls for her to be arrested, and everyone on the streets starts freaking out over Adebayo, basically making the final confirmation here with the Nazi flag reveal, and his brother going crazy, sounding the alert that everybody are Nazis and they're going to arrest her. Really feels like that scene that everybody posted is a meme from Peacemaker Season 1 with all the people in their Ku Klux Klan outfits running out of the woods after Peacemaker. Like that same scene, only it's everybody running after Adebayo. When he sees the flag inside Argus, you also remember previously this season, every time you see a flag in the background of any of the scenes in the other dimension, they always cover up the stars portion so that they could do this reveal. So I do think this is meant to be Earth X, like we saw during the Arrowverse Crisis on Earth X crossover with the Flash, Arrow, all the other shows during that year. It is meant to be canon to the comics. The idea in the comics is that the Nazis won World War II, then took over the rest of the world, and that's why everybody in present day has grown up in this Nazi nation. Now you wonder what's going on with all the other metahumans and superheroes in this world. There is a version of Superman that exists on Earth X. He's called Overman, basically the Nazi version of Superman. Then setting up the next couple of episodes, Economos spouts off the entire truth to Augie when he stabs him through the hand about the other dimension and the other DCU version of Peacemaker, setting up them going after him now. So everybody is basically screwed all around the place.
What? It's your brother, Keith. Something's not right about it.
During the post-credit scene, they just do a longer version of the snow globe scene with Peacemaker's dead mother jokes with the idea that she's a ghost, she's been haunting them, and they actually talk to her. There have been references to ghosts in previous Peacemaker episodes too. Rick Flag's Argus satellite that detects the different pocket dimension events also tracks ectoplasm, which is a ghost reference. It basically is a ghost detector. There are a number of big ghost characters inside the DC comics, implying that we'll see some of them in some upcoming movies or TV shows at some point. Feels like this episode in general just way better than the previous episodes, mostly because it feels like something is actually happening, like they're not treading water anymore, it's not a filler episode, we're actually getting to the plot of the season. Now one of the big questions is going to be is once they make it back to the DCU, will some of the others from that dimension, from Earth X, follow them through? Will there be a bigger battle? And what other big cameos we're going to see? What other big superheroes on the other planet? Pretty safe bet that it is only going to get crazier in the last 2 episodes with even more crossover, so be sure to enable alerts for my channel so you don't miss that. Now that there's a little bit less stuff happening too, I'll be able to get my videos out a little bit faster. Everybody post all your theories and your reactions in the comments below, and my full episode 7 video will post next week after they release it. There were so many different really big episodes that happened this week. I've done videos for everything, so I'll put links for that down in the description below. Be sure to check my channel too if you're not sure if I posted something. Everybody click here for my Marvel Zombies episode video, and click here for all my Peacemaker episodes. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.